Okay. Good afternoon, Dr. Pagnata. Thank you for allowing me to come in and interview you today. I really only have one question, so please elaborate as much as you can. I would like to ask you to tell me, to share an experience that you had. And that experience I'm looking for is a time where you maybe felt that you needed some motivation or inspiration, and who you turned to, how you got that, and then how you use that today with your students or with your family.
Wow, that's a great question. Okay. I've got one. As many women do, there was a point in my marriage where my husband and I were at odds about whether we were going to adopt or not. And he had children from a previous marriage, and I didn't. And I had never really been one to. I'm not a big baby person, so it's not like I felt like it's not like I always felt, oh, I have to, have children. But for whatever reasons, it sort of kicked in, and I really felt very strongly that I wanted to have a family with him. And it was very complicated because what one hopes the other person is going to feel is not necessarily what they're going to feel. And you really can't arm wrestle somebody into feeling something, even though I firmly believed at the time that I could. It was almost like the immovable object and the irresistible force.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt like I was an irresistible force and I could just persuade him. And I really wasn't able to persuade him, and it was very heart-wrenching because I loved him so much, and I couldn't understand how, given that he loved me, how come he didn't just do what I wanted? And that was a really tough challenge. And I was actually fortunate enough at the time. I was seeing this incredible acupuncturist who, I was just seeing her for my elbow because I had developed, weirdly enough, tennis elbow, although I don't play tennis. And I would go, and she fixed it very quickly within a week or so. And I had gone back to her, and I would never really talk to her very much. I would just get needles, stuck in me. And one day she asked me, how are you doing? And I just was feeling very down that day. And so I told her that I was just finding it so hard because I wanted this one thing so much, to have a family, and I also really, really, really wanted to be with my husband, and I couldn't hold the two things at one time. And that I had to give one of them up. I either had to walk away from my husband, or I had to walk away from the idea of having a child. And she started working with me on that. She was a wonderful listener. She really taught me a lot about how to listen, and she used to use these wonderful, often Greek myths. She had studied Jungian psychology as well as acupuncture, and so she started using these archetypal myths about what it means to be witnessed when you're feeling something, that somebody will really listen to it, and also about how to find joy. There's a really wonderful myth about, and it's a long one, so I won't go into it, but in the end, two people get married, and of their union, Psyche is born, which means butterfly, but it also means joy. And so I kept going back to her, and I was seeing a therapist at the time who said, okay, now you know it's time, you've made your decision. And she felt my decision should be I should walk away, that I didn't need to have children. And I used to leave her office feeling very depressed and sad. And I used to walk away from my acupuncturist feeling really like heard and wonderful. And even if I felt sad, I felt like it was a very bearable sadness. And she said to me, you know, you can hold both of those things. You can hold love for your husband and love for a child at the same time. And it didn't happen all at once, but I started just having these like wild dreams. I had this dream about a little pig named Arnold who said he was my little pig. And then I dreamed I was in, we were actually in Hawaii, and I remember that I was at a conference with a friend, and there was a little like pre-born baby sitting in between me and this friend of mine who's kind of like my mom. And we said, okay, it's time for everybody to go home, and the baby said, no, I'm going with Deb. And so I was just having these intense dreams, and we ultimately, and I said to my husband finally, I said, I really feel so strongly, this is what I have to do, and I wanted to adopt. And I remember, you know, vividly, he said, okay, I understand. And I felt light as a balloon. I wrote it down. It was this incredible feeling. My heart just like went mile high. And so, you know, we eventually we did adopt, and it took about 18 months. And so now I have my wonderful 14-year-old. But what I found, what was the most inspiring to me, and what I have used and I use in many other things, and I think that's 7.5 minutes.
So we'll do a second part
Okay.
of our recording.